That,
A ruler, I guess, some kind of ruler?
well, different measuring instruments, not just a ruler. It seemed to suffice. In this particular case, I didn't see anything that I did need that I didn't have or that I couldn't get.
Did you complete a form discrimination test?
A discrimination
Form
test?
discrimination test?
I'm not familiar with that.
Did you do a color perception test?
I told you I don't have the various wavelengths on
I believe did you use any infrared light testing?
I did.
What kind of equipment do you have for that?
I just have the infrared bulb. I don't have...
An infrared light bulb?
Yes. I don't have the different filters. But it's still, to me, a moot point because that has nothing to do with who wrote the envelope or who wrote the letter.
Well, you've heard of a simulation, of course. I think you testified about it.
Of course I have,
Okay,
and I saw no signs of that.
What is a simulation?
A simulation is when you try to make your writing look like that of another. You may add little lines to make it longer, or you may go this direction instead of your normal direction, but generally in a simulation even, you're going to get a little bit of yourself in there. And I didn't see that. I don't.
Did you see any evidence of a simulation when examining the question letter, exhibit number 3, Q2?
No.
Did you notice any differences between exhibit number 3, Q2, and the known writings of Mr. Bond?
The only true difference that arose was the final stroke on the U. Everything else, in my opinion, is a variation.
Do you have any experience with examining jailhouse writings, inmate writings?
Not many.
Not many.
Not many.
Let me ask you about the indentations. You found no evidence of indentations on exhibit number 2 or exhibit number 3, is that correct? That's the question documents.
Yeah. Q1, Q2. Yeah, exhibit 3, you're right, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So no indentations on the question letter or the question envelope?
I did not notice any, no.
Okay, and you put that in your, let's see here. That's in your report right there. It says, I do not find any evidence of indented writing on either Q1 or Q2 despite examination under lighted magnification, correct? No indentations.
I didn't see any, no.
Did you use any computer-assisted equipment or analysis in your examination of the documents in this case?
No. I did it the old-fashioned way.
Did you use your training in graphology when you formed your opinion that Anthony Bond wrote the question document exhibit number 3, Q2?
Do you mean, did I analyze the guy's personality? Absolutely not.
Did you use your training in graphology?
I'm sure it supported my efforts simply because it teaches you the many things that you have to look for. It teaches you basically the same thing that you're looking for initially in document examination, such as the stroke formation, the lightness or the darkness of the writing, that is, the pen pressure. It teaches you about spacing and speed and the beginnings of a letter, the endings of a letter. Now, I realize that's a whole different ball game, and I've kept that separate, I believe. But I don't understand why, that to me was a fascination that I needed to learn for my own safety. And I did that. I don't regret it. It has helped me immensely. It's a whole different discipline from the document examination. Honestly, it does help you. It gives you a good foundation. It helps you to see a stroke that's thin as a knife blade, or if it's fat, abrupt, it stops immediately, or if it's trails off, if it's real tall, if it's looped or it's not, all that is in document examination.
Go ahead, are you finished?
Just because I saw it first in graphology doesn't take away from the fact that it's true.
Did you use your training from the Institute of Graphological Sciences, the institution that you say certified you when you examined the documents in this case?
I used all the training that I had as a document examination, as an examiner, including the mentoring that I received, including the various workshops that I had attended. I mean, it's just like I used, it's like going to school, you know.
Well, the place that you say certified you as a certified documents examiner is the Institute of Graphological Science, correct?
Correct, and
And the word graphological is in there, correct?
yes, but that means handwriting.
I thought it meant what you told us in that book, that you can tell someone's personality and traits from their handwriting.
Well,
Is that not what you said in your book?
I'm just trying to figure a way to educate you to the truth of the science. They're both differences, two different disciplines.
Graphology is a discipline?
Absolutely. And if you learn it correctly, it's a science. If you don't, then you're just no more than a crystal ball reader or something.
You heard of a legal case called Dalbert?
No, of course. And I've been qualified by many judges to testify since the Dalbert Act.
What, have you been to a Dalbert hearing?
I don't think so.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Be direct.
Ms. Pierce, a college education is not required to be a certified document examiner, is it?
No. At least it wasn't through where I was certified, no.
And to your knowledge, is it required today?
It may be with Mr. Sperry's board, but
Not with
me, not with my association.
Ms. Pierce, are we before a jury today?
No, we're not, but I am testifying under oath.
But when you give your opinions, it doesn't matter if you're before a jury or a judge.
Not to me.
It doesn't matter if you're in federal court, state court.
No, not at all.
Ms. Pierce, graphoanalysis is a personal interest of yours, is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
And people can have multiple interests, right?
Exactly.
So if I play volleyball, that doesn't mean that I'm not an attorney, does it?
Correct.
Does your interest in graphology make you any less qualified as a document examiner?
Not at all. And I think it would actually strengthen that because they've taught me to look at so many little minute details.
Mr. Arvin went through your book. That doesn't have anything to do with your opinions that you render today, do they?
Heavens, no.
Mr. Arvin asked you about the video spectral comparator, is that right?
Correct.
Now, most private practitioners don't have such a machine, do they?
No. It's too costly.
Okay. And does that mean that no private practitioner can be a certified document examiner by virtue of
No.
lacking this machine?
No.
Mr. Arvin asked you about computer-assisted analysis of documents.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Arvin asked you about computer-assisted analysis of documents.
Yes.
Is that standard in the industry? Are you required to use a computer to conduct your analysis?
No.
Ms. Pierce, did we ask you to conduct a personality analysis of Mr. Bond?
No.
have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, well, thank you, and we'll let you step down.
Thank you. Here are your documents, sir.
Yes. Who will our next witness be?
Your Honor, this is the time we're going to put on some of our proof with Mr. Grant Sperry, Your Honor.
That's what I understood. So you may call your witness.
I'll call Grant Sperry as the next witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Arvin, we're going to stay until about 15 after the hour.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then we'll take a break and come back and complete this testimony in the afternoon.
Yes, Your Honor.
If you'll raise your right hand, please.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give the court in this matter to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. You may take the witness stand.
Mr. Sperry, would you tell the court your name, please?
Yes, sir. My name is Grant R. Sperry, S-P-E-R-R-Y,
And, Mr. Sperry, what city do you live in, or what area?
Germantown, Tennessee.
And, Mr. Sperry, what is your profession?
I'm a forensic document examiner.
What are your primary responsibilities as a forensic document examiner?
My primary responsibilities are to conduct examination comparisons over documents that over which there's some question. Generally speaking, questions arise with respect to origin, date, and authenticity. Primarily, my examinations focus on the issue of handwriting, whether or not a particular person wrote or did not write handwriting, but include such examinations involving dating a document, whether or not the date on a document is consistent with the document properties, examinations of stamped impressions, trying to source machine-printed entries, whether or not a particular document was copied on a particular copy or produced in a particular printer. At the end of these types of examinations, I render a written report and frequently testify in judicial proceedings or depositions.
And how long have you been working as a forensic document examiner?
A little over 32 years, continuously.
Mr. Sperry, what technical training and formal education have you received to prepare you to conduct examinations of questioned documents?
I've completed a 2-year in-residence course in forensic document examination with the U.S. Army Crime Laboratory back in the late 70s. That course was broken down into 2 phases over the course of 2 years, an academic and a practical application phase. The academic phase, of course, is where I studied the various authorities, books, and sources, attended some seminars, and certainly under the supervision of document examiners with many years of experience. Practical application, in line with the academic part of that course, involved the use of various and training and use of various types of equipment and instruments in the forensic document examination profession. The video spectral comparator, the electrostatic detection apparatus, the ESDA as it's known, microscopy, and various other types of analytical equipment. At the end of that 2-year period, I was certified, having tested routinely during that course. I was certified by the Department of the Army and the Criminal Investigation Command as a forensic document examiner. Subsequent to that 2-year training program, I've completed the FBI's course on forensic document examination, the Secret Service's course on forensic document examination, and received additional training in forensic document examination at the Central Intelligence Agency Laboratory in Washington, D.C., the Royal Canadian Mounted Police Laboratory in Canada, the Bureau of Printing and Engraving in Washington, D.C., what used to be the IRS Laboratory in Washington, D.C., Georgia Bureau of Investigation Laboratory, and various other laboratories throughout the country.
Mr. Sperry, are you affiliated with any professional societies or associations in regard to forensic document examination?
Yes, sir. I'm affiliated with I'm a member of the American Society of Question Document Examiners, past president of that particular organization. I'm certified through examination and the recertification process by the American Board of Forensic Document Examiners, and I currently am on the board of directors of that particular organization. I'm a member of the Southeastern Association of Forensic Document Examiners. I'm a member of the American Society of Testing and Materials International, better known as ASTM, and I'm a member of I'm a fellow with the American Academy of Forensic Sciences.
What's the American Board of Forensic Document Examiners?
The American Board of Forensic Document Examiners is a certifying body, and the purpose of certification, or the purpose of the board, is to set certifying standards and to provide training to meet those standards and test individuals on their basic competency in forensic document examination. It involves, first of all, you have to meet the prerequisites, which include a college degree, a four-year degree, a recognized two-year in-residence program or two-year training program in forensic document examination, and those are prerequisites before you can even apply for certification. The certification process involves a fairly extensive written examination, followed by, if you pass that, practical examinations, and ultimately an oral board.
Is that the main certifying body in America for forensic document examiners?
Yes, it is.
Do you, let me ask, have you prepared a resume?
Yes, sir, CV.
I'm going to pass this to you after that. This is your CV, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's a summary of my training and experience.
Can I ask to be marked and admitted as the next exhibit?
Marked and received as 9 in the case.
Have you conducted research or published articles in the field of questioned documents?
I've conducted various research projects, one in particular on disguised writings over the years. A disguised writing is simply where an individual is trying to distort their writing in some fashion to render it unidentifiable.
Go ahead. Tell us about your publications and your...
I'm published in the Journal of Forensic Sciences, which is a peer-reviewed journal, and I'm also published in the American Society of Questioned Document Examiners journal, which is also peer-reviewed.
Mr. Sperry, have you previously been accepted in court as an expert in the forensic document examination field?
Yes, sir, I have.
And have you testified particularly in United States District Court, federal court?
Yes, I've testified in numerous federal district courts, testified in courts of all branches of the military, various state courts throughout the country, in excess of 325 times or so.
And have you prepared a list or outline of the courts you've testified in since 2000?
Yes, sir.
If you want to ask, first off, if you can identify his list.
Yes, sir. That's it.
Your Honor, may I have that marked as the next exhibit, Mr. Sperry's list of trials, depositions, hearings for which he's provided expert testimony?
Marked and received as 10 in the case.
What's your professional background? You tell us something about your formal training. What's your professional practical experience in document examination?
I have extensive experience in the examination of handwriting. Spent a number of years with the Forensic Laboratory, United States Army, which is the executive agency in terms of forensics for the Department of Defense. So as a result, I conducted innumerable thousands and thousands of document examinations related to criminal investigations for the United States military Department of Defense, and testified in courts as a result of those around the world. I spent 5 years in Europe managing the Army laboratory there, forensic document section of that laboratory in particular, and retired from the Army as a forensic document examiner in 1992. Have since worked with the United States Postal Inspection Service Laboratory here in the Memphis area, Since then, up until 2006 or so, when the laboratory consolidated, and now I do private work, and I did private work before that as well, but now I do consultant work around the country.
So you do a private consulting work in forensic document analysis.
Yes, strictly.
When did you leave the U.S. Postal Service laboratory?
Well, the laboratory essentially closed in 2006, so that was it.
All right. And so you have your own business now, is that correct?
Yes, yes, I do.
Do you also work for the U.S. Postal Service?
Yes, I do.
Tell
I
me
do.
what you do for them.
Well, the U.S. Postal Service, the majority of my day is spent managing security investigation services. In other words, my particular unit of the inspection service issues security clearances from top secret all down. So it conducts background investigations and things of that nature. So I manage a part of that process, as well as some other litigation support things that we do for active criminal investigations.
Does the U.S. Postal Service still have a crime laboratory?
Yes, sir, they do. The crime laboratory is now one crime laboratory. They consolidated in '06, and that is located in Dulles, Virginia.
Do you not want to move? Is that part of why you...
Well, you know, I've got 5 grandkids and 2 kids, and a little on in my career, and I elected to stay here.
Okay. Approximately how many times do you think you've been accepted and testified as an expert in the forensic examination of documents?
Oh, over 325. I don't count too much anymore, but well over 300.
Your Honor, at this time I tender Mr. Sperry as an expert in the area of examining question documents and forensic document analysis.
Any voir dire?
Yes, please, I'd like to hold that off for cross-examination.
All right.
That's fine, Your Honor.
Counsel may proceed.
Mr. Sperry, do you have any experience with... well, let me ask you this first before I hand you the exhibit you've worked on. As you know, this case involves question handwriting. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, it does.
Before going any further, would you briefly explain what makes handwriting identifiable?
Yes, sir. The identification of handwriting is based generally on 2 principles. One is that, two premises actually. One is that no 2 individuals have ever been found to have the same set of handwriting features and characteristics. And the other is that no 2 writings of the same individual will ever be exactly alike. The second being, because we're not machines, we're incapable of machine-like replication. The first, however, handwriting characteristics, what gives them value for identification cumulatively is the development, or is the result of the development of a number of habits with respect to various areas of writing. We're all gifted one way or another with certain abilities in terms of our dexterity, coordination, and perception. And as we learn to write, normally from a copybook or something in front of us, that comes into play and helps with the introduction of features of the writing habit. As an example, when you learn to write, let's say the letter B, from a copybook, the focus of attention is on how do I construct that particular letter. And you're following something that's in front of you normally to learn. As we become more and more familiar with the writing process, cursive and hand-printed, the focus of attention is less on how do I perform a certain act, but more on what is being written. So writing becomes and is a neuromuscular action that through practice becomes habitual. Handwriting habits are found in a number of different areas. Height relationships, spacing characteristics, pressure habits, embellishments, T-crossing, I dots, idiosyncrasies, baseline habits, and the list goes on and on. It's not any single individual feature that allows for writing to be identified or allows for one individual's writing to be separated from another. However, it is a cumulative effect of all these features and characteristics which have taken a number of years to develop that provides for the identification of one person's handwriting habits over another.
Do you have any experience with jailhouse or inmate writings?
Yes, I have substantial experience in dealing with writers that...
what is that experience first?
Well, I've worked a lot of cases over the years, criminal cases where individuals are currently, or were at that point, incarcerated. Parchman Prison in Mississippi, we had a lot of business from them. Parchman, yes, sir. and federal prisons, Leavenworth and other federal prisons throughout the country, where writers, basically what goes on in jailhouse writings, there are certainly gangs, cliques within a jailhouse, and part of what they do in there is they attempt to, in one sense, and certainly this isn't true across the board, but just as an example, they will, as a standard of their particular gang or group, they will attempt to create their own writing style. So they'll create embellishments or symbols or that type of thing within the writing that becomes part of their signature, if you will, when they write. Another features that we frequently see are efforts by writers to simulate the writings of other people. After all, some of these folks have nothing better to do all day long is to practice writing. So we work cases where one person is going to write a note or a letter, but they don't want it to be associated with them, so they'll draft out a letter and then have another inmate write that letter for them. So if it ever comes back, something they shouldn't have done, then, well, they can say they didn't write it. In other instances, an inmate will replicate or attempt to replicate the writing of one person in order to infer guilt or infer some sort of act on the part of that person whose writing they're trying to emulate.
You mentioned the word simulation. What do you mean by that? What issues arise with examining something for simulation?
Well, simulation is an attempt to copy or reproduce another writing, normally for purposes of attributing that particular writing to a particular person. So it involves, the simulation process basically involves looking at a writing and attempting to simulate the pictorial features of the writing in some fashion. What happens in a simulation, the reason simulations fail, especially over an extended writing, even jailhouse writings, is because during the simulation they're looking to replicate it pictorially. So they will try to make a particular letter formation or try to emulate a particular characteristic that gives the value in their sense or in their evaluation to the characteristic of the writing. In other words, they're looking at the writing and they say, well, this is what I see in this writing that makes it the P or the H or whatever it is that I need to emulate to make it look like this person wrote it. And so they attempt to replicate that. Where it fails many times is that, yes, it may look like that, but the letter construction microscopically is not made in the fashion that the writer normally writes it, the true writer. Frequently in simulations you will see where there's been patching. Whoops, this particular letter feature isn't exactly right, so I'll go and add the characteristic to it to make it look like what it's supposed to look like. And you see that quite a bit in simulations.
May I approach and get some exhibits?
You may.
Yes. Thank you, Your Honor. Just one moment, Your Honor. Yeah, okay. Okay. Mr. I'm going to hand you exhibits numbers 2 and 3, exhibit number 4, exhibit number 5 and 6, and finally exhibit number 7 and 8. And actually, would take a look at those exhibits and tell the court you can recognize those.
Yes, these are documents that were submitted to me for examination and comparison. I recognize these by the exhibit designation, which I placed on them by my initials.
If you could just hand me one so I can show the court what you're, if you'd hand me, we'll take exhibit number 2. I'm going to put exhibit number 2 on the screen with the court's permission and ask, and is this, where are your initials that you recognize this from?
That scribble in the right-hand corner above the Q-1 are my initials.
Okay, so Q1 would be what you wrote on there. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Then I'm going to go on the back here to exhibit number 3. Would you do the same thing on, sorry, Your Honor.
That's fine.
Would you do the same thing on every document you go through?
Yes, sir.
So if you've examined a document, you've got your initials on there and you've got the Q2. So this would
Correct.
be your writing, the question
Correct.
document, right?
Yes, that's a designation. That's so that in today's world with photocopies and everything, it's needed, I believe, to identify writing in court that I actually examined.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, this is a very good place for me to stop.
Well, that's fine. We will take a reasonably long lunch break. There's plenty to do. We will start back promptly at 2. Do not discuss your testimony that's been given with anybody else. Of course, you can talk about things that are coming up, but we'll see you, and we will start right at 2. So everybody has to leave the building to get lunch, and so we'll see you at that time. Thanks.
All rise. It's not